She beat a 6-time Grand Slam champion, then said 6 words that made a nation cry. A 21-year-old girl who learned tennis on a basketball court just knocked out the defending Wimbledon champion. No academy, no grass courts back home, no blueprint, just a kid, her brother, her grandfather, and a hoop so close to the baseline she couldn't even take a full swing without hitting it. And when the match ended, she didn't talk about the scoreline. She didn't talk about her ranking. She dropped to the grass, put her hands over her face, and when they handed her the microphone, she said something so raw, so unscripted, that within hours it had traveled further than any tennis result usually does. Somewhere in the Philippines, a stadium of thousands who'd gathered just to watch a screen erupted like their team had won a World Cup. Somewhere else, a 6-time Grand Slam champion was packing her bags, eliminated by a player she outranked by nearly 200 spots not long ago. Stick around, because by the end of this video you'll know exactly what she said in that interview, why legends like Billie Jean King and Martina Navratilova stopped what they were doing to react to it, and why one commentator called it one of the most human moments center court has ever seen. But first, if you love stories about underdogs who refuse to stay down, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is exactly the kind of story we tell here, and you will not want to miss what's coming. The match nobody saw coming. Let's set the scene, because context makes what happened next so much bigger. It was the 3rd round of the 2026 Wimbledon Championships. On one side of the net stood Iga Swiatek, the reigning Wimbledon champion, a 6-time Grand Slam winner, and one of the most dominant players women's tennis has produced in the last decade. On the other side stood Alexandra "Alex" Eala, a 21-year-old from Quezon City in the Philippines, seeded 29th, playing on center court for the first time in her career. On paper, this should not have been close. But tennis doesn't always follow the script, and this match became an instant classic. The opening set alone lasted 84 grueling minutes. Eala had to save 2 set points just to stay alive, clawing her way into a tiebreak that stretched the tension to its absolute limit before she finally sealed it 11 points to 9. It was the kind of set that leaves both players emotionally drained before the real match has even started. Swiatek, to her credit, tried to steady the ship, but something had shifted. Eala's aggressive, left-handed game kept pulling errors out of a player who almost never makes them. By the end of the match, Swiatek had committed 44 unforced errors, more than double Eala's 21. In the second set, Eala took full control, closing out the biggest win of her career 7-6, 6-2. When the final point landed, Eala didn't pump her fist or scream. She collapsed backward onto the grass, hands over her face, her whole body shaking. Center court rose to its feet. The defending champion was out, and a 21-year-old who'd been ranked outside the world's top 100 barely a year earlier had just become the first player from the Philippines to reach the 2nd week of a Grand Slam in the Open era. That result alone would have been the story of the day. It wasn't even the biggest moment still to come. I went to train with my brother and my grandfather. When Eala walked up to the on-court microphone, still catching her breath, still wiping away tears, the interviewer asked her the question every champion gets asked. How does this feel? What came out was not a rehearsed soundbite. She admitted she didn't quite know how to put it into words. She said that for a player like Swiatek, someone with 6 Grand Slam titles already, or for legends like Serena or Venus Williams, a win like this might not mean as much. But for a girl who grew up in the Philippines, training after school with her brother and her grandfather, wearing ruffled socks and light-up shoes, this moment meant everything. Her voice cracked. The crowd went completely silent, hanging on every word. This wasn't a polished, media-trained answer. This was a 21-year-old speaking directly to the little girl she used to be, the one who trained on a hard court painted over a basketball court, with hoops so close to the baseline she couldn't even take a full backswing without clipping one of them. There were no grass courts anywhere near where she trained. No manicured lawns. No Wimbledon-style conditions. Just a makeshift court in Quezon City. A family who showed up every single day, and a dream that refused to die. And then, in a heartbeat, the tone flipped completely. She wiped her tears, smiled, and made it clear that being emotional didn't mean she was satisfied. The message was simple. This isn't the end. Next round, let's go. That contrast, vulnerability 1 second, hunger the next, is exactly what turned a great tennis result into a viral moment. It wasn't manufactured. It wasn't a marketing team's idea of an authentic interview. It was a young woman, in real time, processing the biggest win of her life in front of millions of people. She wasn't done there either. She spoke about the Philippine flags she could see in the stands throughout the match, and what it meant to have her countrymen behind her on the other side of the world. She dedicated the moment to her family, and to every little girl out there who once wore ruffled socks and light-up shoes of her own, dreaming of something bigger than the court she was standing on. A nation of 110 million stops to watch. While all of this was unfolding on Centre Court in London, something just as extraordinary was happening 6,000 miles away. The Philippines is a country of roughly 110 to 120 million people that has historically had very little presence on the global tennis stage. Basketball dominates the national sporting conversation. Boxing has Manny Pacquiao. Gymnastics has Carlos Yulo. Tennis, for the most part, had almost nothing until now. As Eala's run through the tournament continued, watch parties sprang up across the country. Arenas that would normally host basketball games instead filled with fans gathered around giant screens, some opening their doors hours before matches to let supporters claim their seats. Reports from Manila described venues packed to capacity for her fourth-round match against Jasmine Paolini, with fans staying put through heavy rain rather than give up their spot. This was a country that had waited a long time for a moment like this, and it showed up in numbers nobody quite expected. Even the Philippine government took notice. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., who was on a state visit abroad at the time, publicly congratulated Eala, calling her achievement something the entire country could celebrate together and noting that she had become the first Filipino ever to reach that stage of Wimbledon. For a country that hadn't had many global female sporting icons to rally behind, Eala's run wasn't just a tennis story anymore. It was a national moment. The tennis world reacts. Here's where things get even bigger, because it wasn't just casual fans paying attention. Some of the most respected names in the history of the sport weighed in publicly. Billie Jean King, a legend of the game with dozens of Grand Slam titles to her name, posted that Eala had become the first Filipino player to reach the round of 16, calling her an inspiration for kids not just in the Philippines but around the world, and encouraging her to keep going. Martina Navratilova, another all-time great, went even further, saying Eala was building a whole new wave of excitement for tennis across Southeast Asia and the Philippines specifically, bringing in fans who might never have followed the sport otherwise. And then there was Maria Sharapova. For Eala, who has spoken about idolizing Sharapova and the way she carried herself on court, a simple two-word comment on social media calling her a star landed like a seal of approval from tennis royalty. It didn't stop with tennis players either. Centre Court that day had a notable crowd, including Grand Slam legend Roger Federer and Hollywood actor Andrew Garfield, who later described the moment as genuinely inspiring in comments to the press. Back home, the reaction was just as intense. Filipino celebrities and public figures flooded Eala's social media with messages of pride. Fans left thousands of comments under her post-match photos, many echoing the same sentiment, that a little girl in ruffled socks had just inspired an entire nation. The connection nobody expected: Venus Williams. There's one more relationship that made this run even more meaningful, and it started weeks before Wimbledon even began. Just before the tournament, Eala had teamed up with seven-time Grand Slam singles champion Venus Williams for the doubles event at the Bad Homburg Open in Germany. It was Eala's first time competing alongside someone of that stature, and by all accounts, both players walked away from the experience with real respect for each other. Williams later described Eala as her best partner, praising the tournament and the ride they'd had together. Eala, for her part, called it a privilege she never imagined having and said she tried to soak up everything she could learn from a legend like Williams during that week. So when Eala's Wimbledon run took off just days later, Williams was one of the first major names to publicly celebrate it, reposting Eala's winning moment and congratulating her former doubles partner on making history. For a rising star like Eala, having someone of Venus Williams' stature take notice, not as a distant fan, but as someone who had just shared a court with her, added a whole different layer to the story, where this all began. If you're wondering how a player who was ranked outside the world's top 100 not long ago suddenly found herself taking down a defending Wimbledon champion, the answer traces back to a tournament in Florida. At the 2025 Miami Open, a then 19-year-old Eala entered the tournament on a wild card, ranked 140th in the world, the only Filipino player on the professional tour at the time. What she did next was almost unheard of. She defeated 3 former Grand Slam champions in a row on her way through the draw, including a win over Iga Swiatek in straight sets in the quarterfinals. That run made her the talk of the tennis world overnight and put the Philippines on the tennis map in a way it had never been before. From that moment, Eala's rise continued steadily. By the time Wimbledon 2026 rolled around, she'd climbed into the top 30, won grass court titles, and earned her first ever Grand Slam seeding. The win over Swiatek at Wimbledon wasn't a fluke. It was the culmination of over a year of steady, visible progress that tennis insiders had been tracking closely. What happened next? Now, here's the part of the story most highlight reels leave out, and it's worth telling, because it's what makes Eala's story land so differently than a typical viral moment. After the win over Swiatek, Eala advanced to the 4th round of Wimbledon for the first time in her career, the first Filipino player, male or female, to reach that stage of the tournament in the Open era. Waiting for her, there was Jasmine Paolini, the 2024 Wimbledon finalist, a vastly more experienced player on the biggest stages of the sport. It was a battle. Eala pushed Paolini to 3 sets, but ultimately fell 6-4, 4-6, 6-3, her remarkable run coming to an end. Even in that defeat, though, the reaction from center court told you everything you needed to know about how far she'd already come. The applause wasn't for a loss. It was for a journey, for a player who, just days earlier, had been an unseeded outsider in most people's eyes, and who left Wimbledon with a career-high ranking and a global following she didn't have 2 weeks before. Even tennis greats like Martina Navratilova, while praising her run, pointed out afterward that Eala still has real technical work to do, particularly on her serve, to keep competing at this level long-term. And that, in a strange way, is the most encouraging part of this whole story. She is not a finished product. She is 21 years old, with a game that's still evolving, and a resume that already includes wins over multiple Grand Slam champions. Why this story matters. So why did this moment resonate so far beyond the world of tennis? Because it wasn't really about tennis. It was about representation, about a country that rarely sees its athletes reach the biggest stages in sports like this one, watching a young woman get there anyway. It was about the idea that where you start doesn't have to determine how far you go. Eala trained on a converted basketball court with no grass anywhere in sight. She didn't come from a country with a deep tennis infrastructure or a long list of past champions to learn from. She built her own path, one match at a time, and then stood on the most famous court in the sport and told the world exactly where she came from instead of hiding it. And maybe the most powerful thing she said in that entire post-match run wasn't even from the on-court interview. In her press conference afterward, when asked about being a role model for young girls, she said she didn't want kids looking at her and wanting to be the next Alex Eala. She wanted them to look at her and want to be the first version of themselves. That's not a line written by a publicist. That's a young athlete who understands, maybe better than most people twice her age, that the goal was never to become someone else's copy. The goal was to make her own path, and to prove to a little girl somewhere in Quezon City or Manila or anywhere else in the world with a dream and no blueprint that it's possible. If the story moved you even a little, that's exactly why we make videos like this one. Hit subscribe, tap the bell so you don't miss what's next, and drop a comment telling us what part of Alex Eala's story hit you the hardest. Because stories like hers don't end when the match is over. They keep going. In every person they inspire to chase something that once seemed impossible. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.